Hello guys, we are back and we are talking about a topic which I know is concerning a lot of Arsenal fans. It's certainly the subject of significant debate among Arsenal fans. I see it happening in the comments below every video, and that is about the prospect of Arsenal letting both Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey leave in the same summer, the same transfer window. We're going to be talking about that, what it might mean, why Arsenal might be doing it. Before we do, I suppose I'm going to make a statement, a hypothesis, which is going to sound a little bit controversial or heavy-handed, but let's go for it as a starting point. If Arsenal were thinking only about winning the league next season, the season that we're about to play, they would be hell-bent on keeping Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey in their squad. That's my opinion. But the big but here is that I think Arsenal are thinking beyond that. They are not thinking about how do we build the most competitive squad for next season. They are thinking, how do we build a squad that can be competitive over the next 5 years? And that's why I think we're in a situation where we might see two of our top performers last season leave the club. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it more. Before we do, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I just really appreciate it. And we're all friends here, aren't we? So if you're my mate, give it a little subscribe, give it a like, give it a comment. It all helps. I'll be honest, I don't really understand how it helps, but I've heard enough people in the past on other YouTube videos saying please subscribe that I've thought I might as well do the same. That's the extent of my expertise. Let's go for it. So, Partey and Xhaka. Well, one of those players is already gone, so there's no point having recriminations about it, but we've lost a very good player in Granit Xhaka for, it seems, a decent enough fee in the end. But he was excellent last season. A very, very good player. Albeit one who arguably had reached the kind of apex of what it was possible to achieve in that role, in that position. You know, he really excelled, liberated from some of his defensive responsibilities and getting into the box, playing higher up the pitch, not being the target of pressing, not having to turn on the ball inside his own half. It disguised his weaknesses and helped him discover new strengths, and it was a revelation. But he's over 30, and even on our best days, there were moments within games where, and we all watched them, you thought a player who is slightly more technically accomplished, who is a different physical and technical profile to Xhaka, could potentially capitalise on some of these attacking opportunities more than him. Arteta clearly felt the same, and that's why we've seen Xhaka go and Kai Havertz come in. The other thing there is, of course, the age. I spoke about Xhaka being over 30, Kai Havertz 24, but still vastly experienced. That's partly why that transition has been made as well. So it is making the squad younger, but also bringing in someone who is more fit, seemingly, for the position as Arteta envisages it. Partey is a bit different because I think Partey is a really good fit for the defensive midfield role in the Arteta midfield, particularly for what he brings on the ball. That ability to do what Xhaka often struggled with, receive the ball under pressure, deceive his markers, create space, play penetrative passes through the lines. He's brilliant like that, and I've said it many times, I actually think that people get Partey wrong. I think they think of him as a destroyer when he is someone who breaks the game open with his ability on the ball. For me, that is his primary strength. But there's a key distinction between Xhaka and Partey. Xhaka's hallmark of his time at Arsenal was consistency. He had his moments, but certainly over the last few years, he's been remarkably consistent. And I mean that both in terms of his availability for selection, but when he plays, you do know what you're getting from Granit Xhaka. Certainly you have done in recent years. Thomas Partey, on his day, is absolutely outstanding. There are few midfielders in the Premier League who can live with him. I think something that may have frustrated Arteta during his time as Arsenal manager, working with Thomas Partey, is that there are too many days that aren't Thomas Partey's day. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. One, of course, is fitness. Fitness has been an issue throughout his time at Arsenal. And given his age, that's unlikely to become less of a problem. Probably the injuries are only going to ramp up as he gets older. That's a well-known pattern among athletes. But also there have been inconsistencies in terms of his performance level. Last season is a fascinating example of that. For 80% of the season, he was brilliant. 20%, not very good at all. And unfortunately for him and for Arteta and for Arsenal, that was the most important 20% of the season. Now, he was not alone in that. There were many other Arsenal players whose form suffered in that period. But I think Arteta would have looked at Partey as one of the most experienced players in his squad, one of the most well-paid players in the squad, and wanted more. And even before that, Arsenal were looking at Declan Rice, planning on Declan Rice. There are things Declan Rice does better than Thomas Partey, and for my money, those are his defensive attributes. Very few players recover the ball as frequently as Declan Rice. Very few players have such a natural instinct for sensing the gaps in the team, where the opposition opportunities for transition, for counter-attacks are, and snuffing those out. I think in that respect, he's better from Partey. So he's more consistent than Partey. He plays a lot of games, touch wood, does not miss a lot of football, so more available generally than Thomas Partey. Better defensively, I would argue. And what else? Younger, of course. Younger. It's interesting to hear Arteta talking about the athletic profile that Rice has, how important it is. Height is another differentiation with Partey. And Havertz's height as well. Again, taller than both Xhaka and Partey. The question becomes, is it just too much? I get it. I get what Arteta's doing here. He's bringing in players who fit the age profile of the current group, who can stay together for the next 5 years, and selling players in Xhaka and potentially Partey while there is still an opportunity to do so and to recoup some money. How many times have we criticised Arsenal for not doing that, for not moving on swiftly enough? The worry for us is that, we like consistency, we like security, and those two players were instrumental to all the positive things we achieved last season. So it feels a bit scary to go into the unknown with 2/3 of last season's midfield potentially gone. It just seems to be that that's a risk Arteta is prepared to take, because he has in mind not replicating what Arsenal did last season, but building something greater and something that can sustain over a longer period. It is going to be fascinating, because if Arsenal's start to the season is not what we hope, immediately Granit Xhaka is going to be mentioned, and his absence and his importance as a leader. If Thomas Partey is to leave the club, and it's not a given, a deal has to be done, and at the moment nothing is close in that respect. So, but if he were to, and then Declan Rice gets injured, who steps into the breach, would the club suddenly find themselves questioning some of their decisions? I think what we can say with confidence is that if Thomas Partey is to go, another midfield player has to come in, because in much the same way that neither Xhaka nor Partey can be seen as a long-term part of this group, you have to say the same about Mohamed El-Neni and Jorginho. So if Partey were to go, and Sambi potentially to go as well, I'd like to see a young player brought in, kind of to be the player that Sambi hasn't quite managed to be as yet. The hope was that Sambi could one day be Partey's heir. It didn't happen, and Arsenal have gone big on Declan Rice instead. But if Partey goes, let's bring in a project player who, in 2 or 3 years could really push Declan Rice for a place, or give us the alternative of putting Rice in the number 8 role and playing as the number 6. That's the kind of profile I'd like, because I think in El-Neni and Jorginho we have enough experience cover. We can afford to go for someone a bit more of a creative choice. You know, someone who's more of a developing player, more in line with the kind of signings we've seen Arsenal make over the last few years or so. Right, let's leave it there. Going to be much more to come as pre-season develops, but great to chat to you guys today, and I'll speak to you all soon. Like and subscribe, please.